Bloody Jacob here to give you my thoughts on Masters of the Universe. Now, to preface a little bit, I am not like a major, He-Man fan or anything like that. My most of my experience with it comes from, the late '80s Dolph Lundgren movie, which I've seen and do enjoy for what it is. As well as I did watch the 2000s cartoon. Actually, I was born in '96, so I was at a pretty proper age to watch at that point. I haven't really seen the original cartoon, I'll be honest with you, and I haven't seen a Netflix show or anything like that that they did a handful of years back. Um, but I was drawn in because I do enjoy fantasy and this type of genre. And I'm also a big fan of Camila Mendes, who is Tila in this movie. She is my favorite coming out of Riverdale, and I've enjoyed some of her projects since. So I was just curious about the fun factor of seeing her in this sort of movie. And I gotta say, I had a pretty decent time with it, I guess. um, I can't say I really dug it all that much though. Um, I do think the lead actor playing Adam, He-Man, I keep trying to say his last name, but I butcher it for whatever reason, but you know who I mean. I liked him in Marion George with Julianne Moore, which is a limited series on Stars a few years back. And he was more fun and endearing than I expected. He was better with the comedy than I was thinking going in. Um, and a lot of people were complaining about that Earth section. It's like 30, 40 minutes of the movie. It's too long. That actually wasn't one of the worst, segments in the movie for me. I didn't think it overstayed its welcome at that point. That came later. um, but I thought he did a good job generally. I think with some of the emotional stuff, he is a little bit, hit and miss. But all in all, I did enjoy him and kind of how he meshed with the vibe the movie was going for. And that brings me to one of the main points of discussion, and that is the vibe of it and the style. I do think it helps going in if you see it as it's an adaptation of a 80s cartoon. So of course it's not going to take itself more seriously for more than 5 or 10 seconds before cracking a joke or doing something else lighthearted. And I do think that explains quite a bit of it, but at the same time. And in these years of all the comic book movies we've had and things of that nature, it's very easy to see that since the success of movies, like the Guardians of the Galaxy films and Thor Ragnarok and such, every studio, superhero or otherwise, has kind of taken that as, oh, that's the new template. This is the style that is easy and sells, and that's how we have to do everything now. MCU's replicated it themselves, and even with movies that are kind of separate like this, they kind of take that same formula, that same approach. And it very much feels like that's just very, very MCU humor and how it's delivered. There's some more adult innuendos that you might expect. But it really just feels like that sort of shtick, that sort of comedy. So be prepared for that. And I think the humor, while it was, like I said, it was fun at various points. For me, it felt even more excessive than Ragnarok or even Love and Thunder, which I know a lot of people don't like, but this felt, almost just even more than that, too much. You do have Idris Elba as Man-at-Arms, who I think did a good job in the role and what it, called for him. It does sort of just feel like Idris Elba being Idris Elba, though, and I think there are probably other casting choices that would have fit the character more out there. I don't know. But I still liked him. You have Jared Leto as Skeletor. People are saying, "Oh, hey, no one likes Jared Leto." Luckily, you can't really tell it's Jared Leto, and you really can't. It's a combination of course, heavy CG, and there's some practical, work done, I guess, but you can't really tell. It just looks like a generation of some kind. And the effects, some of them are striking, like visually popping and stuff like that, and others are just very green screen. You can tell it's not there heavy, but again, it fits with the whole adaptation of a 80s cartoon sort of thing. So are we letting it go just because of that, or are we actually forgiving it? I don't know. That's up to you. But overall, I think there's some good action too. One in particular when He-Man powers up, it's a pretty damn good action sequence with him taking on a group, um, and Teela gets her licks in too. The movie is too long though as well. It's a little over 2 hours, and kind of by the end of like the final confrontation with Skeletor, it's like, okay, it's still going, still going. Um, and again, how it like interweaves some humor back from like his time on Earth into the climax of the film without spoilers. It just felt really just odd and unneeded and just really kind of just janky and took you out of it. But overall, it's not a bad time. It's harmless, but it wore out its welcome for me at some point partway through. Letterbox rating will probably be like a 3.5 out of 5, probably closer to 3. So good, nothing like massively worthy of disdain for me, but it's kind of just what it is.